Welcome to KYC Media News. We bring you the greatest and most up-to-date news of the day, and we invite you to stay tuned. Ukrainian war and wheat. Russia and Ukraine control around 11.2% of the world's arable land and supply 28% of its send-out wheat. A significant part the world's most rich wheat fields lie along the two countries' borderlands south and east of Kiev, extending to the Black Sea. Since Russia attacked Ukraine in February, a large portion of those croplands have become combat zones. It is obscure precisely how much useful limit with regards to wheat has been harmed since the conflict started, yet the circumstance is critical. The Statistics Service of Ukraine gauges that around 40% of Ukraine's cropland may not be established for this present year, bringing about a 54% decline from 2021 wheat creation levels, a measure of lost wheat identical to that consumed by 151 million individuals in a normal year. With U.S. wheat yields likewise expected to drop 15% this year in view of dry spell, the world countenances food deficiencies on a worldwide scale. Quite a bit of mankind, including food-shaky countries, depends on Ukrainian and Russian wheat. Without it, millions might go hungry and wartime legislative issues and global relations could experience a weakening shock. Pictures of wheat are stepped on monetary standards and engraved upon sanctuaries. Our most seasoned stories compare wheat with salvation and with life itself. Furthermore, wheat is omnipresent in struggle. Armed forces have frequently designated wheat capacity for catch and obliteration. Control of wheat safeguards partners and pressures rivals. Present-day history shows us wheat's focal job in enormous scope human struggle and manifests the hugeness of the worldwide debacle unfurling in Ukraine. During the Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th hundreds of years, expanded efficiencies in transportation empowered nations to create specific merchandise and produce overflows to work with exchange, establishing the groundwork for our ongoing worldwide framework. Somewhere in the range of 1868 and 1902, as the gas-powered motor automated food collecting and handling and fueled quicker trucks, ships, and trains, the expense of wheat shipments dropped 75%. It turned out to be financially achievable to move wheat from the U.S. to Britain, or from Odessa to Britain. What had been a nearby war started to turn out to be essential for an interconnected worldwide framework. This interconnectedness is additionally outlined by the way that a large portion of the wheat filled in Kansas and all through the Great Plains today imparts a typical hereditary legacy to Russian and Ukrainian wheat. For instance, the productive Turkey red assortments were first acquainted with the U.S. in 1874 by migrants from the Volga River district of Russia. Be that as it may, while proficient transportation made more interconnections between various product advertises and empowered worldwide exchange, it likewise made new weaknesses in financial fighting. Wheat was critical in World War I and World War II. In the two contentions, warriors, battling to take care of their populaces and starve their foes, looked for control of rich farming regions in and around Ukraine. The Second Great War uncovered the delicacy of incipient worldwide stock chains for grain. In 1914, north of 90% of the world's wheat was sent out from just 7 nations: Argentina, Australia, Canada, India, Romania, Russia, and the United States. Net wheat shippers, for example, Britain demonstrated helpless. For instance, costs in the United Kingdom rose by around 60% during the conflict, prompting extreme proportioning and bread riots. Wheat trades from Russia, Romania, and what is presently Ukraine, were disturbed when Turkey entered the conflict toward the start of November 1914 and shut the thin Turkish waterways. In the interim, dry spell diminished Australia's and Canada's wheat yields, and Argentina traded 10% less wheat than the earlier year too. India restricted commodities to decrease costs for its inner market. U.S. grain, supported by solid Russian wheat strains, stayed ample yet costs, slammed by fluctuating developing circumstances and wartime disarray, were temperamental from 1915 through 1921. Value fluctuation in bars caused human affliction and adversely impacted war endeavors. By and large, when countries are at war, their populaces and their militaries require higher calories. Subsequently, the old Napoleon-credited truism, "A military walks on its stomach." Even populaces that were not straightforwardly engaged with struggle were impacted by cost increments as food turned out to be scant and excessively expensive, which prompted unhealthiness and social commotion. The Second Great War was set apart by more prominent solidness in wheat and other staple grain creation, as countries carried out illustrations of the previous struggle by supporting inventory lines and amassing what wheat they delivered. Yet, this was more straightforward for the Allied powers, which included significant wheat makers the United States, the Soviet Union, and Romania, than for more modest wheat-delivering Axis powers. Specifically, Germany and Japan shared a worry about delivering sufficient nourishment for their huge metropolitan populaces. Hence, wheat turned into a goal and a weapon of war. At some point around 1940, German SS Obergruppenführer pioneer Herbert Back persuaded Adolf Hitler to attempt to redirect Ukrainian grain streams from Soviet urban communities to Germany in what was known as the Hunger Plan, to support the Third Reich and force passing by starvation on 30 million Soviets. By 1942, Germans consumed in excess of 7 million tons of Ukrainian grain, and a huge number of Ukrainians and Russians starved. Worldwide wheat costs multiplied from February 1941 through the finish of the conflict. Furthermore, by 1948, as Ukraine and Russia battled with bombed harvests and unfortunate vehicle foundation, costs multiplied again, prompting unhealthiness inside Europe and different nations, encounters that drove numerous states, including the Soviet Union, to focus on public food creation in the later peace of the 100 Years. After the breakdown of the Soviet Union in 1992, Russia sought after a strategy of key independence and excesses sufficiently huge to help the worldwide market for wheat and other basic staples like sunflower seed and oil, rapeseed, and corn. Regardless of monetary ascents, Russia is as yet ready to be the world's top wheat exporter in 2022 and 2023. Like prior clashes, the present conflict in Ukraine can possibly upset economies and lives inside the area as well as past. The United Nations and World Food Programme is cautioning that food uncertainty has deteriorated in the previous year for 193 million individuals across in excess of 20 nations. Of these, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan, and Yemen require dire philanthropic mediations to keep away from starvation and demise. Low-pay nations are most impacted by fixed wheat supply and cost unpredictability, since they should build the extent of pay they exhaust on food. In the event that state-run administrations sponsor food buys, valuable assets will be redirected from different speculations like medical care, sterilization, and schooling. Influences from overturned gathers and commodities are amazed, and until nitty-gritty harm evaluations of Ukrainian framework can be performed, foreseeing the harm to wheat products will be troublesome. Strategic difficulties might possibly outlive the conflict. One justification behind Ukrainian and Russian predominance over wheat sends out is their homesteads' nearness to the Black Sea and worldwide transportation courses. In any case, basic food transport frameworks are enduring an onslaught. Ukraine's Mariupol port has been annihilated, and different ports are involved or under bar. With Russia deterring admittance to the Black Sea, Ukraine wheat products might confront bottlenecks on other transportation courses. Fully expecting worldwide wheat deficiencies, legislatures all over the planet are prodding their ranchers to establish more grounds to supplant missing Black Sea grains. In the United States and Australia, ranchers might establish more winter wheat than expected. Kazakhstan, Central Asia's breadbasket, declared brief product amounts on wheat grain and flour of 1 million metric tons and 300,000 metric tons, individually. Furthermore, India, the world's second biggest wheat maker after China, reported it will keep its wheat trades this year, around 900,000 metric tons, to satisfy homegrown food security needs. With wheat reap planned to start in July in Ukraine, the capacity to successfully store that yield alongside different yields collected in September and October is basic. Without legitimate capacity, wheat will ruin, further diminishing food accessibility.